Hey, welcome back to Total Disruption. I'm Dr. Jake Clendenning on behalf of the Michael Libercci, here with a friend of the show and an old friend of mine, Lucas Sherraden. You guys have heard me talk about him before. Been an inspiration, been very impactful for me in leadership. Has a great story, and I'm so honored to be able to interview him today. Kind of bring him up to speed. And he's got a new book coming out, which I know is a lot of work to get a book written, and it's an amazing journey. You learn a lot about yourself along that path in doing so. And he's on the marketing tour right now in the pre-launch stage, which is also a lot of work. And I think it proves how bad you want the book to succeed, just how much you're going to work on the marketing. He's digging in hard right now. So, Lucas, welcome to the show. Super excited to have you on today.
Thanks so much for having me, Jake. It's good to reconnect with you.
Absolutely. It's in I think I blame Facebook a little bit of, oh, look, Lucas is still doing cool stuff. But you don't reconnect. I think, I always comment on, and some of my favorite ones I commented on are Lucas's Christmas posts, because he's one of the only other guys that has inflatables the size of mine. So I'm a big fan. He's got these giant Rudolphs and snowmen, and yeah, I love it. I'm a big fan. So you've got your new book coming out. Tell the audience kind of your story, your shorter synopsis, because I know it's a
Sure.
lot, that brings us up to speed about what prompted you to really push this book.
Yeah, absolutely. So I spent the first part of my professional career, 20 years in ministry. Toward the end of that, I was traveling. I think my last year in ministry, I flew 125,000 miles. And so I was literally all over the world. And it became real apparent that I needed to make a pivot for our family's sake and what have you. So in March of 2008, I watched 3 episodes of House Hunters and thought real estate would be a great career for somebody who basically is unemployable in every other aspect of it. I've got a Bachelor of Science in Pastoral Ministries. Nobody is actually hiring that position, really. So I got into real estate, went broke really quick, was using credit cards to buy gas and groceries, using lines of credit to pay minimums on credit cards. So I was using debt to pay debt and went $100,000 in credit card debt very quickly. At that time, somebody recruited me, quote unquote, to Keller Williams. I thought they were just helping me build my business. And then after 5 months at my previous brokerage, only doing one transaction, I ended up selling $6.5 million of real estate my first year at Keller Williams. Changed my life. And actually, that first year was some of the foundation of The Uncaged Leader, which is my book that is coming out here really soon. The next year, doubled the business, and then I had an opportunity to run an office, was able to move back to Kansas City, where I'm from and where we live now. Run another office, did that for 7 years. That had opportunities during that time to buy an office, several offices. I had 9 offices at one given time. I was a regional director. That's where you and I got to know each other. A MAPS coach, a instructor going around the country, then worked directly for Gary Keller, running the growth for Keller Williams for a period of time. That was about 3 or 4 years ago when I stepped out of that role. Now I work full time at a prop tech company called Place, and super excited about this book that is coming out here in the next couple of months.
I love the title. Like that's been what's so attractive to me about this, and I can't wait to read it. Just based on the title, and I know we're not supposed to judge a book by its cover, but I fully am.
I kind of
But
hope you do judge it on the cover.
yeah,
We're all
there's
time
a
on
piece
it.
of that. Yeah, it's a great title. Like how, and I'm hoping you don't change it, because I know sometimes that happens as we get closer to launch time. I know even John Maxwell's had some books that, like, a week before they were going to roll out,
Yeah.
his company said, "Nope, we don't like it. We're going to change this," and he tells that story. And I love that one from stage. It was like somebody gets to tell John Maxwell he has to change his titles, really. But that was a piece. So talk to me a little bit about Uncaged Leader. What is in this book that, and I know everybody's going to need to read it. What's in here that is the reason we need to?
Yeah. So what I found for me, Jake, is that especially like when I got into real estate, then when I became a team leader, started running offices, and then began to coach, I began to see myself and other people coming into areas where they would just butt their heads up. We called it a ceiling of achievement. Where they would just come to this place where it's like no matter what happened, they wouldn't get past it. It was like whether it's in their physical health, in their marriages, with the wealth building, in their professional careers. And I began to discover that that the things that I was aware of, I could handle. but it was the things that I was completely unaware of that were working against me, of mindsets and perceptions and perspectives that actually became a cage that limited my potential. And so for me, the cage is our autopilot thinking, the programmed response where like one of the examples I give in a lot of keynote speeches that I give right now, Jake, is if I were to put 2 tubs of ice cream in front of you and said it's one's chocolate, one's vanilla, which would you choose, Jake? Live question.
Likely, I would choose vanilla only because chocolate gives me heartburn.
Okay. Okay, so you choose vanilla because of a past experience with chocolate. So even
Mhm.
there, your preferences made a decision for you on your behalf. You don't even have agency in which ice cream flavor we choose. And when I realized that so much of my life, I'm not even actually mindfully thinking about things, I am just defaulting to my experience and my programming, and it's autopilot thinking. So much so, sales, you think about sales, we don't cold call because we have a picture of cold calling in our mind. We don't door knock, or we don't prospect, we don't market, whatever it is. I don't care about what it is, but so much of our lives lived on autopilot, and we're not even mindfully choosing things. So therefore, the cage is that mindless thinking, and the uncaged leader is helping people get outside of the cage of autopilot thinking through 2 tools. One is a tool of awareness, and then the second tool is learning how to live more in curiosity than in judgment.
Oh, amen to that. And that's so much of what my work has been, is that living in that, start with curiosity first. And I mean, I've heard you say it from stage so many times, seek first to understand. I've heard you say it. And the first time I heard you say it actually was probably Mandalay Bay. You were speaking in
Wow.
Las Vegas,
Yeah.
and I was sitting after an event with Ben Kenny. I started sitting front row. I was back row at one of his, and he gave me a lot of grief about that, and again, really helped open my eyes about where the opportunity in that room was and why it was in the front row. So I chose to sit in the front row. And you were one of the first events that I actually sat in the front row at, which is, I'm remembering back like where my leadership journey started. And that's why you were such a big part of it in the beginning. Is yes, a little bit by proximity, but it was a decision. To your point, it wasn't the default decision,
That's right.
which the previous default was I like to sit in the back of the room because I might have to get up and stretch my back, or I
Right.
might have to do something else. So I had to make a conscious decision. First, it was the awareness of why I needed to be in the front of the room. And so that's where I initially met Lucas. So let's look at that a little bit more of that. So many small decisions, and we see it in business too, right? That running on default,
That's
and
right.
that is such an impactful thing. Like, so many of us are not even aware.
That's
Like, we're
right.
just not even at all. Like, and for some of us it was a pinnacle moment that all of a sudden it was like a door opening, kind of, wow, I'm suddenly aware. But what are you teaching right now that, from a small step, we come from a world of the one thing, what is
Yeah.
this?
Yeah. Yeah. Sure.
And which is totally true. What's one thing you're helping people understand to become aware?
Well, it's funny because Gary, I think Gary Keller has written the forward to 4 books in his entire career. I happen to be the 4th. And when he read that, he starts his forward off with saying, "In the one thing we ask this question, what's the one thing that makes everything else easier or unnecessary?" He points to this book as a part of leadership, learning how to, number one, be aware. And I did massive amounts of research for this book, as you probably would guess from being an author yourself. I came across a study by Tasa Urich out of the Harvard Business School, and she did a study on self-awareness in America, and 95% of Americans believe that they're self-aware. The sad truth, though, alarming truth, is only 10% actually are. So when I'm in a keynote room where there's like tables of 10, I'll say, at this table of 10, 95% of you believe you're self aware. Only one of you are, and all of you at the table are convinced you're that one. If we could get our arms around the fact that much of what we do in life is based upon a program that we did not choose, we inherited or we absorbed through life's experiences, and we see that not as a bad thing or a good thing, we just see that as a thing, and we flash the floodlight on becoming very aware of when do I mindlessly say I'm not going to do that, or even worse, we we use our personality style, like, well, that's just not my personality. And now, great, you're victimized to your own personality style. Personality profiles never trump personal decisions. And so what we want to do in the Uncaged Leader is shine a spotlight on, number one, can I grow in awareness? What's my relationship to failure? What's my relationship to success? What's my relationship to money? What's my relationship to whatever it is? And be aware that, okay, this is my programmed way of thinking. And if that programming gets me to where I choose to be and my vision I have for my life, great. But if that program thinking prohibits me from getting to my vision for life, then maybe I need to challenge that with curiosity. And so vision is a decision, Jake. I either decide it for me or the world stands ready to impose its sense of vision on me for me. And I'm not good with that. And that's the mission behind the Uncaged Leaders. I want to see leaders equipped and not and when I define leadership, I think a mother of a 2-year-old is the greatest leadership on the planet, right?
Yeah.
So I think this book is for everybody to help you, number one, understand where am I living by default, by programming, by autopilot thinking, where are my preferences and biases making decisions on my behalf, and then second, how do I actually grow the curiosity muscle in a very healthy way?
And I love the fact that you're referencing curiosity as a muscle, right? Because it is. And if you don't use it, it atrophies. Just like anything else, it's a depletable skill. I know, and you did something similar when you were a MAPS coach. I was a MAPS business coach. One of the things to start to flex that muscle we had to do is we had to write 1,000 coaching questions, which was at the time when you looked at that, and a mutual friend of ours, Abe Shreve, is I thought, well, Abe's out of his mind. 1,000 questions. That's an impossible task. It's not, right?
Yeah.
It's one bite at a time. How do we eat an elephant? And you do it. But the point of the task is to start to build the muscle
That's exactly
on, being able to do that, to ask those questions. Another, person that we both know, Terry Gurno, who I think is honestly, arguably one of the best coaches that I know. I love Terry to death. He said the right question asked at the right time will change a person's trajectory in their life.
Yeah.
And I wholeheartedly believe that. And I think that's the basis of curiosity,
Yeah.
right? It's not questions for questions' sake
Right.
necessarily. It's questions for not just curiosity, but connection, to
Well,
really truly connect.
and I think, Jake, one of the things, like, if you refer to people who, like, sometimes an older man, especially, is referred to as a grumpy old man, and it's
Mm.
because that they pretty well have made up their mind about how the world works, and they stop being curious. And I'm 59 years old, and I'm entering into that chapter where I could become one of those grumpy old men, and I realized for myself that the secret to longevity, the secret to vibrancy is to constantly face the world without being the expert, is being a student every day of saying, "What's the world, if life is my teacher and I'm the student, what's it teaching me today?" And I have a philosophical and theological background that at the very beginning of time, there were 2 trees in the garden, and we ate from a tree that gave us the capacity to judge good and evil, and we weren't designed to eat from that tree, and we're not good at it. We were designed to be curious, because from curiosity comes creativity, and what the world needs now is more leaders who do not live in the cage of managing chaos, but how do we create something new? How do we create something that's life-giving? How do we create something that alters the course of human history?
And how do we empower those around us to walk the
That's
path with us?
that's exactly.
That's the biggest piece.
Because the truth is, you and I have both been part of organizations where, in the absence of true leadership, we have to resort to control and force. And when we resort to control and force, we've abdicated our leadership, and we have not allowed creativity and curiosity to reign, and we've not allowed innovation to remain. And that's a cage, a fear-based leadership, a culture of fear, a culture of controlling and forcing and making people do things. You'll get short-term formal compliance, but that's not true leadership.
And that's true. And we've all done it, right?
Yep.
I'm guilty of it. I will own it. And I think coming out of that world that we came out of, that's one of the gifts from, the coaching universe that we are in, is accountability is not a stick,
That's
right?
right.
Accountability is not punishment. Accountability is love. We heard that from Mo.
Right.
I didn't understand it the first time that I heard her say that accountability was love, but that's the absolute truth. So to be able to present someone that is in the boat with you, right? We're leading them. We're saying that's where we're going. And here's the reason why. Here's the grand vision of why we're going to these greener shores. And the people come along with you. It's not just row, row, row my boat.
That's right.
That's not what we're doing here. It's we've got to go, okay, this is where we're going. Can you help? What can you do on your oar to be able to get the rest of us where we're all going for the betterment of all of us?
Yeah, and in my journey, I found a lot of people were howling at the moon, complaining about toxic leadership, which if you wanna get a Facebook post that gets traction, talk about toxic leadership. Everybody will jump in there. I don't see very many people saying, "Stand up," like, "This is what not toxic leadership looks like. This is
Mm-hmm.
will solve for that." It does no good to complain about what already is. We need leaders who'll step up and say, "Out of nothing, I'm gonna create something," and the hope and the prayer and the desire behind this book is this I hope it sows seeds of greatness where people become a new type of leader where it's not command and control, but it's a leader who leads from a healthy place of curiosity, a very, very profound place of self-awareness, and helps themselves and the people around them get out of the cage of their preferential thinking.
Yeah, absolutely true. We recently dove into a little bit of software technology for this purpose, and back to the 1,000 questions, right? Back to that piece. So we actually built an app that helps people to understand how to ask the questions.
Love
And
it.
it's just a training tool. That's the purpose of it, is to get that muscle and build those reps to be able to do it. So with this leadership path, so there's something really cool that you're doing with the book and the proceeds, which I think is absolutely awesome. We all need a cause. I firmly believe that we've got to have that cause to follow. I know you're a Simon Sinek fan as well. Around the just cause. What are you doing with the book? Because I think this is super cool.
Yeah. So I'm on mission primarily to set leaders free. And as I was thinking about this, that God's blessed us. We're at a place where the money's not an issue for us. And so I was thinking, how do I make this transcend my just Lucas and ego and what have you? And it hit me as like, you know what? I'm passionate about stopping human trafficking. There are more people, Jake, in slavery today than at any other point in history. I hope your listeners will let that sink in, that there are more people in slavery now than at any other point in human history. And real honestly, the only time it gets press is when we want to bring down a politician. And while I think politicians need to be accountable, they need to be punished for any wrongdoings that they do. I think it's a shame that the only time we talk about it is in a political context to bring down a politician. What I wanna do is stop it. I wanna stop, and I know that the primary consumer of, especially the sex trafficking is the 40-year-old white man, American man. And so 100% of all the profits from the Uncaged Leader, I'm gonna give away, and I'm looking for a couple of organizations to partner with, but I'm gonna give away all of the profits, all the money made on this book to stopping human trafficking in America today.
Which it's a beautiful cause. And you're right. I mean, the only time that we're aware of it, the only time that I get actively reminded about it is if I stop and use a restroom at a gas station and
Oh,
there's a
yeah,
sign on a
there's a
wall.
sign on the
And
wall.
that's fine, right? That's fine, but it's not, what are we being fed
That's right,
elsewise, entertainment wise, when we're doom scrolling on Facebook? What should we be seeing? How can we stop this? What
that's
do
right,
we need to do to stop this? What are we doing proactively and impactfully to do so? And you're taking a stand on it.
that's right.
And it's so inspiring that you're taking a stand with this book, because I know how much work it is to write it. I just finished my fourth one, and had it out. I know how much work it is to write each one. I know how much work it is to market them, and you're doing it from a place of purpose.
Right.
It's not hey, I'm going to get this book done and I'm going to make $1 million off of this book. And just about anybody that's an author just kind of, laughed a little bit at that, because
Sure.
very, very few of us have become millionaires off of our authors. And I'm not one of them. I'm just saying
Right.
us as an author. But, there's an opportunity here, guys. When you share this episode, when you share the book, when you buy the book, when you refer the book and you tell people to buy the book, you are taking a stand. You are standing up for a cause in which you can support the stop, right? The stall, and if nothing else, in the moment, the awareness that this needs to stop
That's right.
until we can stop it. But it's a beautiful stand to take, and I'm proud of you for doing it, man. It's
Yeah.
awesome.
And honestly, it comes deeply personal. I have 3 adult daughters. I've got 4 children, but three of them girls. I can't imagine any one of them being sold against their will just to service a man. And so, like, that's abhorrent. We should be rioting in the streets about that topic, and we aren't. And I get that. And I'm not calling people to do violence, but I'm just saying this should incense us to anger that we need to stop this. And so, Jake, and you know how big, hairy, audacious goals or wildly important goals, whatever you want to call them. So my big, hairy, audacious goal is to sell 1 million copies of this book, because if I make an average of $2 to $3 a book, that would be me giving $3 million away to stopping trafficking. Now all of a sudden, the book writing part was hard, but selling the book is even going to be harder. And I'm going to need a whole army of people who'll say, not only will I read it, not only will I quote it on social media, but I will tell 10 of my friends to go read it as well. And I need people who become evangelists, because the book, amazingly powerful, and I think it could change the trajectory of human history. But the cause behind the book is equally, if not more so, powerful.
And this is an example of the power of who. And everybody here has heard me quote Jim Rohn 5,000 times. You're a product of the 5 people you spend. But we're also, think about the connectivity that we have. Of all the visitors. We've got a couple 100,000 people that listen to this show. If every one of you shared this with one other person, there's 400,000 people, and they share it, there's 800,000 people.
Right.
Like there's a really, really quick set of math. I was going to use the word algorithm, still throw it out there, but there's a nice set of math here that you're able to reach millions of people rapidly, and that's the point. That's what social media should be being used for.
That's right.
Is build great leaders that stand up for a cause, great leaders that stand up and say no to this sex trafficking. I mean, it's absolutely appalling, and we should be absolutely standing up at every possible. We should be calling our congressmen, calling our senators, standing up in rooms and saying this is not okay. And that's, as a leader, it's okay to do that. Give yourself permission to stand up for a cause and say, no, this is not okay. If you're going to pick one, this is a good one.
Yeah, I think collectively, Jake, and thank you for saying that. I think collectively, this is where we, as a listening audience, you never know who's on the other side of a book recommendation. You don't know who the next person is going to be that just one showing on Oprah and a book takes off, or one showing on Lewis Howes or the Joe Rogan. All these different people, you just never know. Good grief, there was a book that took off last year or the year before because an NFL player was caught reading Inner Excellence on the sidelines, and all of a sudden this book that was basically had only sold 3,000 or 4,000 immediately overnight sells like 30,000 to 40,000 copies of a book just immediately. I'm hoping what we could do, and obviously there's all sorts of internal imposter syndrome, all the stuff that we go through, all the stuff that I tell you not to do in the book, I'm going through myself, right? Is like, what can we do to make a difference? And what I'm doing is going on every podcast to anybody who'll listen. It's like, if you'll buy it, read it, quote it, and give it to 10 friends to read it, quote it, spread it to 10 friends, then we could potentially start a movement that, number one, produces a more healthy leader that would be inspiring us to follow instead of commanding us to follow. Number two, we could stop something that might go down as historically the biggest blight on American culture of all time. So.
Agreed. Lucas, this has been awesome. I'm so grateful for you today. Grateful to reconnect after this time, and for such a wonderful purpose and reason in what it is. So tell us one more time. Give us the quick pitch on where and when.
Yes. So you could go to theuncagedleader.com. You could go to a bookstore of your choice now and pre-order the book, but the uncagedleader.com, if you'll sign up there, I'll send you a lot of other resources that we're developing around this, free of no charge. I'm not interested in monetizing a database like that. So just feel free to sign up there, tell friends about it. And it's supposed to be in bookstores by August 11th.
Beautiful. Well done, man. And that's, well done you. That's all I can say on that. Just as always, inspirational and impactful, and I'm super grateful for it. I'm Dr. Jake Clendenning on behalf of the Michael Libercci. It is your turn to disrupt.